Okay, I'm running out of January here, so I better just record this, even though you can probably tell I'm feeling a little sick and probably won't be sounding like my normal self, but that's okay. Give it a little bit more baritone. You guys might actually enjoy that. Let's talk about my favorite movies of 2024. In a year that was a box office roller coaster with some epic highs and some significant financial disappointments, people were really concerned about the quality of the films that came out this year, since we're recovering from 2023's actors and writers strike. But honestly, I didn't really feel much of that while I was going to the movies this year, but I also missed a lot of the big tentpole films. Instead, I saw an awesome collection of mid-range features and indies that made me feel that cinema is alive and well. Some of these movies are technically 2023 movies, depending on the region, but I count them as a 2024 movie if they are released in North America in 2024. That's how it goes with some of these festival films. As usual, I wanted to see more movies, but making this list was already pretty hard given the quality of the movies this year. But that's the burden of being a film fan. You'll never get to see them all, but I caught up on a lot that I wanted to. Here's some that I wish I saw before putting out this list, but ran out of time. I'll get to seeing them and maybe have regrets about my list, but ain't that just how it is? Anyway, here's some honorable mentions and my top 10 films of 2024. Late Night with the Devil. So much of the conversation around this movie is about the use of generative AI, which I feel unjustly paints an unfair picture of what the movie is or isn't. And while I don't agree with them using it, the majority of the movie is a unique take on the possession genre and is a pretty engaging story. Don't forget all the other aspects of the film that are original and took a lot of work and talent from people in the industry. But yeah, next time hire a graphics designer. Don't use generative AI in place of a person. That's bad. Piece by Piece. This is a cool take on a biopic format, as Pharrell Williams tells the story of his life and career completely in Lego. Though, do be aware that, while this is a PG movie, it's not really the kind of Lego movie you bring your young kids to. But there is a lot to like for people who love stories of the music industry. Turtles All the Way Down. Based on the novel by John Green, I really enjoyed this adaptation and how it explores the reality of living with OCD and the barriers it creates in life. I found elements of the finale unfulfilling, but apart from that, it was grounded and insightful and well worth the watch. Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. This one just gets in because it's really more of a 2023 movie, but it saw distribution in the States in 2024. This French-Canadian flick follows a young vampire traumatized by events of her youth and refuses to kill a human so she can feed, relying on bags of blood harvested by her family, who are getting impatient. Anyway, it's a very fun, dark comedy. Be sure to check it out. Babes. Babes barely made a blip in the box office this year, but I hope it gets a second life in home viewing because this too frank to not be funny comedy has some great laughs and really hits home with the current day millennial life, as our generation is suddenly the parents and adults of the world. Give it a watch. Furiosa, a Mad Max story. I'm throwing in a 6th honorable mention because I didn't count my top 10 very well. There were some double numbers there, so whoops on me. So this will be number 11. Furiosa is one of the best movies that could be considered a disappointment, if for no other reason than that it had the impossible task of following up Mad Max Fury Road. It's not as good as that film, but it's still very cool and has some awesome stunt work and set pieces. It bombed, which is a shame because it deserved better, and I would love to see more films in the Mad Max world. Be sure to see it. Number 10, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Superman, the Christopher Reeve story is an emotional ride. I'm not even the biggest Superman fan, and I don't even love the original Superman flicks like some people do. But I appreciate what they were, and most of all, appreciate what they do mean to some people. But those movies are only a portion of Reeve's story, as it talks about his journey as an actor, struggling to overcome the typecasting that his fame brought, and the relationship that he had with his partners and kids. Of course, it is also discussing this tragic accident which turned him quadriplegic and forced him to redefine his life and legacy. And bar none, this is the movie this year that actually made me cry the most. There's a lot to love in here, and my only complaint is that I wanted even more. They fit a lot in this documentary, but I could have just kept on watching, so don't miss this one. Number 9, Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine is one of those cases where it relies a lot on fan service and in-jokes, references and winks for reactions from the audience. Normally it's everything I roll my eyes at with modern blockbusters, but Deadpool always has a way of making the unworkable work. I mean, there's really not much to the story, but it's cleverly constructed enough that these references feel justified, and ultimately, it's so much fun that you don't even care. Hugh Jackman hasn't lost his touch with the character since his iconic finale in 2017's Logan, and Ryan Reynolds continues to be the hero we need and not deserve in the superhero genre. I haven't been on the MCU hating train like many have, but I do admit that my interest was starting to wane in the whole thing. I mean, I still haven't seen all the most recent movies. I used to be on that. Well, I'm glad I caught this one. Number 8, Nosferatu. Robert Eggers' Nosferatu is the creepy gothic horror of the holiday season that we all wanted. This retelling of the classic story of Count Orlok, which is a retelling of the story of Dracula, understands what made the original 100-year-old classic such an enduring telling of the story. The feeling of the film is dark and heavy, treating the iconic villain as an evil force of nature. The performances are on point, theatrical without being silly, and there are scenes that will leave a lasting impact on me. No reliance on unnecessary jump scares or excessive blood splatter. Nosferatu scares you the old-fashioned way, with chills and atmosphere. Number 7, Woman of the Hour. Another chilling movie that makes my list is Woman of the Hour, Anna Kendrick's debut feature film. It tells the story of an actress who winds up on the dating game in the 70s, and unbeknownst to her, one of the contestants is a serial killer. It's scary on a different level, knowing that it's all based on true events. It also helps that Daniel Zavato delivers a chilling but charismatic performance as the serial killer. It's not a super ambitious film, but it's a smart, funny, and taut thriller that tells its story well. Kendrick doesn't swing for the fences stylistically, but she does make some solid decisions throughout and gets a lot out of her actors. It's a strong debut. Number 6, Transformers 1. Man, it was hard being a Transformer fan during the Michael Bay era. It's one thing to see your childhood completely disrespected by someone who sees the project as nothing but dollar signs, but after his reign is over, I still feel like I have to explain to mainstream audiences why they should give Transformers another chance. Transformers 1 helps make the case, contending as one of the strongest entries in the franchise, and it makes for a great entry point, as the number implies. While I have my issues with it, as I stated in my full review, it really is a visually stunning and narratively fulfilling story, and gives Transformer fans what they came to the movies for. Number 5, My Old Ass. My Old Ass has a solid premise that I don't actually see all that often. Though there was that movie, The Kid, from a couple of decades ago. Anyone remember that one? Anyway, what would we tell our younger selves if we had the chance to talk to them? In this case, Aubrey Plaza plays the older version of Elliot, who plans to move out of her small town to go to college. But she's at a turning point at which she can heed the warnings of her older self or just live the life she wants to live. Consequences be damned. And this movie just hits it out of the park. It's super engaging from start to finish, hilarious, insightful, and damn it, I even cried at the end. Didn't expect that. I don't know, I just really connected with this film, and writer-director Megan Park should be really proud of her work. Number 4, The Wild Robot. The Wild Robot shows a different side of DreamWorks animation that we don't get to see very often. They get artsy and real earnest in this picture, and I think this one will go down as a very special movie for kids of this generation. It can be very dark, but is often very funny, but most of all is propelled by an abundance of heart. I do think that there are some narrative shortcomings in the third act, but mostly everything comes together really nicely, and it was great to see this one become a word-of-mouth hit. If you haven't seen The Wild Robot yet, check it out. Number 3, Dune Part 2. Dune Part 2 finally brings a satisfying conclusion to the Dune story. I'm glad we finally have a definitive version of the story on the big screen. It took a visionary director, technology being able to make it look real, and the studio being willing to give the team freedom to make the film that they wanted to make. And it is a beautiful movie, from its epic score to its breathtaking cinematography. I mean, what else is there to say? Sci-fi fans have another new masterpiece that we can keep coming back to. Number 2, Saturday Night. I didn't even think about it when making this list, but I've got 3 Canadian directors in my top 5 films. Megan Park, Denis Villeneuve, And here's Jason Reitman, who's actually one of my favorite directors in the business right now. I just haven't seen a movie of his that I didn't like. And this time he tells the story of the first night of Saturday Night Live by dramatizing the last 90 minutes right before it airs. Saturday Night follows Lorne Michaels as he tries to keep this troubled shoot together. And while I think it really takes liberties with the truth, there's no way that all of that happened the last hour before shooting live, its ambitious presentation becomes a tightrope walk all of its own that matches the tension of the movie. The actors of the film do an amazing job of replicating the essence of the famous comedians such as Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, and Billy Crystal. Anyway, it's a blast to watch and I loved every minute of it. Number 1. Hundreds of Beavers. I gotta be honest when I say that this goofball slapstick comedy is the movie that I had to call my favorite of the year. Hundreds of Beavers is really like nothing you've ever seen before. A truly unique vision from a director who made a lot out of very little. The closest thing I can compare it to is Looney Tunes and its sheer insanity. But it's also kind of like a video game in structure because the lead character progresses essentially with a leveling up system. It's really creative, to be honest, and I can't imagine the painstaking process they went through, especially in post-production, to give this film the look and feel that it has. So much imagination, humor, and joy is on display here. It's a clear labor of love, and the end result is so entertaining. I say it's my favorite movie of the year because it really is one of the only movies in ages where I just want everyone I know to see it. I just want everyone to watch it. I want it to make loads of money so these guys can make another movie. I'm hooked. Count me in. I saw it quiet in the night, mostly by myself, with my wife watching some of it too. And my hope is that I get the chance to see it in a movie theater with an audience someday. I think that's where this one will really shine. Anyway, that's my list. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your favorite movies of the year in the comments down below. I would love some more recommendations. And please don't forget to like this video. It helps so much with the algorithm. And subscribe to the channel because I want to have you around here more often. Thanks so much. And good night.